This set of therapies that I want you to consider is going to have an awful lot to do with being able to reorganize thoughts, reorganize emotions, reprogram your brain, reprogram your neurology, reprogram your breathing, your heart, and things of that sort, so that you are actually in the reprogramming part of things. This came out of behavioral modification, the Skinnerian behavioral modifications in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. It also migrated into what's now called cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy is so diverse, it just covers so many bases, but the bottom line is that every different type of cognitive behavioral therapy believes that by the very act of working your thoughts, you can change your behaviors. And that also, as you change your behaviors, your thoughts and your emotions begin to conform to what your behaviors are manifesting. And we know all of this to be true. Now, this does not work on the basis of the in-depth exploration and the deep emotional and affect and personal and personality processes that are involved in class number 2, where we're talking about the in-depth psychoanalytic, psychodynamic types of therapies. Instead, this is like a programming. You'll realize that when you're dealing with a therapist that focuses on this, they're all about catching the connection between emotions and thoughts, and they will try to intervene either on the level of emotions or thoughts or combination. They might use hypnotherapy, mindfulness, deep breathing, a conversation, self-affirmation, self-messages, your imagination, to be able to somehow modify your cognition, what you're thinking, your thoughts, the process inside you as associated to your behaviors and to your emotions. And intervening on that level can be very helpful. And I want to let you know that I actually use a combination of in-depth types of psychotherapies, a lot of different ones, as well as inserting cognitive behavioral therapeutic approaches at just the right time when I think that's going to get the most mileage for our efforts in the therapy. But there are times where, because of the complexities of who we are, working on that level is just way too superficial, and it does no good. It doesn't allow for catharsis. It doesn't allow for the emotional integration that occurs necessarily. You want to think of it as kind of reprogramming it. So it's not the in-depth process that's related to you being a complex person and reintegrating and restructuring it, but it is being able to reorganize. Now, when you have a lot of racing thoughts, a lot of horrible memories and nightmares and intrusive sorts of experiences that take you out of your present moment, these type of exercises can be tremendously helpful. And in my book, Paths to Recovery After Abuse and Trauma, as well as most of my other books, including Own Your Own Peace, KISS Method of Inner Peaceful Living, these books have a lot of cognitive behavioral sorts of interventions in them because they're very easy to describe and they're very easy to practice. Now, here's the key about these types of therapies. Practice, practice, practice. You take a skill set, you take a phrase, you take an idea, and you practice intervening on your thoughts or intervening in your behavior over and over and over again until you actually rewire and reprogram. You can't just suddenly be rewired or reprogrammed very often. Occasionally it does happen. We call those amazing abreaction or amazing transformational moments. But mostly what happens is that you have to practice it and practice it and practice it. So you know that idea of, fake it until you make it. Well, you have to fake the positive thought over and over and over again until it begins to modify your behaviors and your feelings and your actions. So you can practice it over and over and over again. So an example would be, I feel attractive today. Let's just take that superficial one. I feel attractive today as a message that you say to yourself. I feel attractive today. And so you say it to yourself over and over and over again, even though it feels completely false and a lie. And you'll find that your behaviors begin to shift just a bit. Maybe you dress a little better, groom a little better, or you smile a little bit more, you're a little bit more radiant. And so as a consequence, you actually get feedback that you seem more attractive today. And that type of feedback begins to build on it, so then now you have an emotional process that creates this loop in a social situation, creates this loop in behavioral changes with yourself, all based on you over and over and over again, putting that thought in your mind until it begins to take hold. We know that this can help with those nightmares or those horrible flashbacks, because as soon as you begin to go in that direction, you can intervene with thoughts, distractions, reframing, redirection, and all of these are related to this type of cognitive behavioral work. Related to cognitive behavioral reprogramming work would be hypnosis, neuro-linguistic programming, and NLP. So hypnosis and NLP, along with cognitive behavioral therapy approaches, are often just put together in the same barrel. And people who do hypnotherapy don't really realize how much of cognitive behavioral therapy they're working, because they look at it from a different paradigm or a different model. So nonetheless, there's that idea we're going to reprogram. We're going to provide suggestions for your unconscious, your subconscious, and your preconscious to be able to process over and over again. And the idea is repetition. Repetition, 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 because that's what begins to modify the neural wiring, which brings me to the next reprogramming type modalities. You'll notice that in one of the previous courses, I do talk about neurobiofeedback equipment, where you have your head attached to brainwave indicators, EEGs, so that you can actually see how much of the relaxing brainwaves you're able to voluntarily create versus how many of distressing sorts of brainwaves you're involuntarily just having expressed. So you learn how to relax. You learn to relax by meditation, by mindfulness, by exercises that you practice. You reprogram your brainwaves to be able to move into a state of relaxation. I also demonstrated some biofeedback equipment as well. You might remember the EM wave, or you might remember, what other one did I demonstrate? I talked about the Wild Divine. That's a good biofeedback tool as well. And you are getting this information that says that you need to breathe in a certain way and create what's called a confluence with breath and with your heart rhythm, so that you're reminding your body what it's like to live in ease and relaxation, as opposed to in reactiveness, anxiety, and stress. So that is a very helpful process. There are more complex biofeedback and neurobiofeedback interventions that are available as well, so that the normal therapist, unless they are specifically using that equipment or specifically trained in those interventions, are not actually going to be able to do, and they may actually someone may actually recommend that you go off and do a more intrinsically detailed neurobiofeedback reprogramming process. And some of them I've just seen amazing results as a consequence. So be mindful that that's available to you. So cognitive behavioral therapy, you have hypnosis, you have neurolinguistic programming, you have neurobiofeedback, and you have biofeedback. Biofeedback is your heart, your respiration, your sweat glands, and neurobiofeedback is the measuring of your brain waves predominantly. So that is all very, very helpful. This is you being able to reprogram yourself. Now, just imagine how wonderful it is to be able to do the in-depth therapy work, to be able to put in the cognitive behavioral hypnosis or the NLP and just insert them in just the right time, or the biofeedback and the neurobiofeedback to assist you on all sorts of different levels. And that is my ideal. That's my ideal, is to be able to interface all of these different types of therapies together. Okay, we're going to talk about some more types of therapies in the next class. So go on to the exercises. They're a lot briefer in this course. But the information here will be very dense and helpful for you as you kind of explore what's right for me along these lines. Okay.